Hello, students. Ms. Cohn here. I am going to continue my talk on literary analysis writing and talk to you about your conclusion and citing your sources. We've already talked, I've already given you an overview of literary analysis writing. We've talked about introductions. We've talked a little bit about index citations. I'm going to review that today. And we've talked about body paragraphs. So at this point, you should be thinking about your conclusion and creating your works cited page, which is the focus of today's talk. All right, so what goes into a conclusion? Really, here's the components I kind of like to see in a conclusion. I want you to restate the thesis, but make sure it's in a different way than in the introduction. Don't just copy and paste your thesis into your conclusion as the first sentence. That doesn't work out very well, and that's really robotic and formulaic and boring. You want to sort of wrap things up and summarize, key points, but keep it brief. And then you definitely want to leave your reader with something to think about. I kind of refer to the ending of a conclusion as giving that final so what. You want to let your reader know why they should care about what you've just written. Yes. So without saying you should care about this because we're not using the second person, okay, at all in this paper unless you're quoting evidence from one of the plays. Second person makes you sound like you're preaching to your 45-year-old teacher with a master's degree, and you don't want to do that, okay? All right, so how do you leave your reader with something to think about? This is the harder part of a conclusion. Sometimes you make some kind of call to action. Sometimes you leave the reader with a quote. You have to be really good at that, though. Yeah, and call to action works well with argument and persuasion, not so much with literary analysis writing, although it can work with literary analysis writing depending on your topic. Application to today, always a good way to end a paper. Why should we care today? Implications for the future. Give that final so what. Why is this important? Why should the reader care without saying, the reader should care because... A provocative question. You have to be really good to give, to start a paper with a question or to end a paper with a question. It needs to be thought-provoking. It needs to be rhetorical. If you use a question, don't make it a superficial question like, now that you've read my paper about racism in the 1950s, how do you think we can solve this problem? Please. If I see a question like that, I cry a little inside as a teacher. So really just stay away from the question beginning or ending if you can't do it well. And as with lots of different kinds of writing, if you connect the beginning to the end, that's always good. All right, so here's a sample conclusion for the American Dream prompt. In A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry and Fences by August Wilson, it is easy for the reader to perceive how easily a person's goals and dreams can be stripped away from them due to forces such as poverty and racism. Beneath the question is her ability to afford and find success in medical school after Walter loses the money, and Mama gives up hope to move into her dream house due to the family's quick plummet back into a lower socioeconomic status. Troy is denied a chance at the major leagues due to the color of his skin and denies Corey a similar opportunity to protect Corey from the pains of racism. 1 minute, these characters feel their goals within reach, and the next minute they are crushed. The fragility of the American dream is not something that is particular to just the 1950s. Unfortunately, most people have experienced the joy that comes along with achieving a goal and the heartache that comes along with failing to overcome the obstacles that interfere with success. However, it is how people choose to respond to such circumstances that defines them and illustrates the quality of their character. All right, so what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is taking someone else's writing and ideas and trying to pass them off as your own without citing your sources appropriately. Okay, we can use other people's ideas or exact writing inside of our own writing. We just need to cite it appropriately. Okay, and it's not just exact words we're citing. We're also citing when you have to cite someone's ideas as well. Okay, to avoid plagiarism, a person must put ideas from a piece of writing into his or her own words in their own paper. Paraphrase and summarize. You have to use in-text citations. So author's last name, page number, or page range. We're not going to cite scene and act because of the way Fences is, because we're using a screenplay. So we're just going to go with author's last name and page number. Okay. Use quotation marks for direct quotes from a text, and you have to include a works cited page. Okay. So who gives guidelines for students for citing sources? Modern Language Association. MLA stands for Modern Language Association. There are different organizations who put out different style guides that you follow for citing sources, both in text and on a works cited page. They also put out guidelines for formatting your paper. Like the reason I have you do your heading with the date European style and page number with your last name in the top right, because that's MLA format. Okay. Most English classes, some humanities classes will use MLA. Most of you will major in an AP or in a social science or hard science in college, and you will be using probably more than likely when you write a paper, you'll be using APA's style guide, which is the American Psychological Association puts out a style guide as well. There are other organizations who put out other kinds of style guides. For instance, the University of Chicago has their own style guide. So if anybody ends up going to the University of Chicago, you'll probably be using their style guide. Different organizations put out style guides almost every year, at least every other year, because for two reasons. One, they want to make money, their organizations, but also because they're constantly updating and making changes that make sense to them based on what writers tell them, but also they have to make changes based on new media that comes out there. So, for instance, when I was in high school, we weren't citing tweets. They did not exist. But, now you could cite a tweet. I wouldn't say it's a grand valid source of information, but in some circumstances, you might cite a tweet. For instance, if you were writing a paper about sexist language in politicians' social media, you might cite a tweet from our current president. Again, it depends on what you're writing about, whether or not a source of information is valid. So, just so you know, that's a little brief history on source citation, okay, and why you always want to use the most updated version, and the fact that you'll probably, unless it's an English class in college, you'll probably be using APA, most of you. All right, so which two parts of the body paragraphs need to have in-text citations? I've already told you this. So if you're telling yourself that it's the context and scene summary leading into the evidence, which is also cited, you're correct. And if you think about it, it just makes sense. The topic sentence is your idea about a race in the sun and fences, yes, and or fences. The scene summary, you're just putting what happens in the scene, right, in your own words. So that those ideas really come from the play. So you got to cite the play, okay? The evidence comes directly from the play because it's quote of evidence. So you're going to cite that. And then the analysis is your ideas about how this connects with this, right? All right. So again, the middle two parts of your body paragraphs are going to be cited, the analysis not cited. And again, which one should be the largest part of your body paragraph? Analysis should obviously be the largest part. okay, because that's where you do most of the thinking. All right. What are the components of an in-text citation according to MLA, and where does the period go? Okay, so you got to have the author's last name, page number, or page range. Period goes after the citation, not before and after. So again, this is a summary of part of a scene. The entire Younger family is devastated by the news. Hansberry, page range, period. This is a direct quote used as evidence. So probably just a page number rather than a page range. Hansberry, 503. You with me? Okay. Notice where the period is. Period after citation, not before and after. Okay. Just after citation. That is one exception to the period goes inside quote rule. Okay. All right. Where should you go to find out about MLA guidelines for citing sources? I would use either a style manual for MLA, print version on Amazon, for instance, or you can actually go to MLA online, and they have a lot of examples posted. I like to go to Purdue's OWL. Their online writing lab is great, and if you click on this link, you can see that I have you linked to a page where you can get to the different style guides. So if you were in medical school, you'd probably be using American Medical Association guidelines. Apparently, engineers have their own style guides. So if you're at Purdue majoring in engineering, you may be using this. University of Chicago has their own style guide. As you can see, MLA or APA is the most frequently used. We're using MLA. Okay, so you click on that, and if you go to Formatting and Style Guide, you've got all kinds of information on how to format your paper, the first page of your paper, in-text citations, the basics from works cited page basic format. So if you click on that, your works cited page should, here are your basic rules. It should be on a separate page at the end of your paper. It should have the same margins. Okay, you should label the page works cited page and put it at the top center of the page. Double space, don't skip spaces between entries. Indent the second and subsequent lines of citations to create the hanging indent. I'll show you how to do that. List page numbers of sources efficiently when needed. And entries should be in alphabetical order. Okay. So A Raisin in the Sun is going to become before Fences because you're going to put the author's last name first on the works cited page. And Lorraine Hansberry comes before August Wilson. So anyways, we're going to use this to cite our sources, okay? MLA. And again, you've got the slideshow outside of the video to help you as well. All right. Here is how we're going to cite A Raisin in the Sun. We're going to cite it as where it came from. It came from a print book called Making Literature Matter, which is an anthology of literature. So you need to cite it like an anthology. So I've got the link here to the Amazon page for Making Literature Matter, so you can get all the information you need to cite this source. Okay. And then you're going to cite this as a PDF or electronic source, Fences, as such. Okay. Now, again, some basic formatting rules for the works cited page. It needs to be centered at the top of the page. Make sure it's the same font as the paper, Times New Roman, Arial, or Courier New. The citation on the works cited page has to have a hanging indent. It should be double spaced. And citations on the works cited page need to be in alphabetical order. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the process of citing both fences and a raisin in the sun. Your final citation should look something like this. Okay. As you can see, we got the double space. We've got the hanging indent. We've got the words works cited centered at the top of the page. We've got alphabetical order. Okay. So let me walk you through the process of citing each one of these. I'm going to go back to these two. Actually, I'm going to get out of here because I've already clicked on both of those. I've got fences up there. I've got making literature matter up there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, again, this can be the last page of your paper. I'm going to create a new doc just to show you how to do a citation here. Okay. And I am going to make sure your margins you won't have to fix. I have mine defaulted to something different than you guys are because I want you to see the most you can on the screen. So you just use the default. Okay, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make sure my document is double spaced. Yes. And again, if you're just doing this on the last page of your paper, it will already be formatted the same way. If you're doing it on a separate and plan to copy and paste it in, you will have to do the formatting. So, oops, let me go back here. Okay, make sure I've got 12-point font. My paper was written in Times New Roman, so I'm going to keep it that. Actually, let's do Courier New. My paper was written in Courier New, 12-point font. Want to make sure I'm double spaced, centering the words works cited at the top of the page. So as you can see, I've done that. And then I'm going to left align it again, and it's double spaced already. And since I know the author's last name is the first thing that appears in a citation, it has to be alphabetical. I'm going to go ahead and cite A Raisin in the Sun first. Okay. So I got to go to works cited page. Okay. And I know that it's an anthology in a book. So I'm going to click on books. There's basic book format, a book with more than one author, two books by the same author, book with no author, translated book, republished book, an edition of a book, anthology or collection. Okay. Oh, and we're citing for work in an anthology, reference, or collection. So we're doing author's last name, comma, first name, period. The title of the play, yes. And the title of the book, edited by, publisher year, etc. Okay, except I know that it's a play, and I'm not going to put it in quotes. I'm going to, I think I am going to italicize it. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to use this formula, and I am going to go to Making Literature Matter, which is the anthology that it is in. John Schlib, John Clifford are our authors. We'll use them as in the editor's spot because we're going to cite Lorraine Hansberry as the author of A Raisin in the Sun. And I think if I look at my formula, author's last name, comma, first name, period, it says title of essay. Since it's not an essay and it's an actual play, I'm going to italicize it. So I go here, oops, let me get a space there. A Raisin in the Sun. I think I put a period after that. I do. And then the title of the collection would be, again, if I go back, Making Literature Matter, an anthology for readers and writers. Let's see if there is. Okay. Making Literature Matter, an anthology of readers and writers. Let's see what goes after that comma. Edited by. Oops, and then we want to unitalicize that. Edited by. And then how are the editors' names? Okay, so I'm going to do edited by John Schlib and John Clifford. John Schlib and John Clifford. And if I go back to my formula, okay, I think there is a comma after that. And then I go to the publisher. So if I go back here, publisher is, publisher is Bedford St. Martin's. Bedford St. Martin's. Okay. Let's see if a period is after that. Nope, comma. So I've got to get every little comma and period right. Year, page range of entry. So let's go back here. Published what year? Does it tell me? I gotta look around the Amazon page. 2011. And then the page range, I believe Miss Colden told me on the PowerPoint, 443 through 552. Let's make sure we put a comma for, what did I say it was? Miss Colden told me 443 through 512. 443 through 512, period. Okay, so that would be our first citation. Let's see. Oh, I forgot the pages. Does it say pages? It does. Look what Miss Cone did. We got to do PP, period. Okay. Then what I'm going to do to get the hanging indent, I believe what I need to do is put my cursor on the second line. Help. Let's put in hanging indent. Special indent hanging. So all you have to do is go to help. Type in hanging indent. Hanging apply. And look at that. All right, then we're gonna go to fences, okay? Fences, we're gonna cite like a PDF. So let's go to electronic sources and see if we can find PDF, which I imagine it'll be at the bottom. A tweet. YouTube video. Let's see. Maybe we'll find it in other common sources. Sometimes you just gotta look around. An interview, panel, painting, summer album, film or movie, podcast, digital files, PDFs. So we're gonna use the author's last name, fences. We'll see if there is a year or date there. Alrighty, so we know that it was Wilson, August, period. And then fences, easy enough. Fences italicized because it's the title of a play, period. And then we look for a publisher, which I'm not sure we have one here. Okay, we don't really. And I'm going to include a URL. Yes, since we are not sure that there is anything else. We don't have a year. We don't have any of it. So Miss Cohn is going to include a URL for this so that anybody who would be, and then what I'm going to do is remove the link, okay? So that way anybody who would want to know where the script K firm would be able to find it, they wouldn't be able to find it with just this, okay? So I'm going to add the URL since I have no other information to give, okay? And what I'm going to do as well is I've got a little trick where I break up the URL, okay, and unlink it again so that it looks more, it lines up better. So again, let me space that way. It lines up a little better and looks like it is formatted correctly. I usually break up the URLs. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it makes it look formatted. I feel like nicer. And again, we weren't supposed to space in between there, and crap, now I've got to get that hanging indent again. So I go to help, hanging indent, and I put it where I need it to go, apply, there we go. Hanging indent, pretty easy to get. Okay, and there you have it, Works Cited page. Okay, just wanted to walk you through it. Again, it's a matter of using the formulas in Purdue's online writing lab, making sure you have the right kind of source and you identify the kind of source, you find the formula or example in Purdue's online writing lab, and then you just do it, making sure you have the proper formatting. Again, Works Cited centered at the top of the page. Alphabetical entries, double space, same font as the paper, hanging indent. And you also want to make sure that this is the last page of your paper. So if you do it on a separate document, you can copy and paste this into the last page of your paper, making sure you keep the format, or you can just do it on the last page of your paper when you're done. All right, folks, that's all I have today. Hopefully that was helpful to you. You all have a great day.